Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Mignot. Each day for the month of February, during Black History Month, I interview a phenomenal Black woman. Today is no different. I am super excited to have Tonja Renée Stidhum, who's a writer, producer, director. She's an amazing story, and I can't wait for you to take a listen. Hey, Tonja, how are you?
Hey Laura, thanks for having me. I love the energy already, so I'm so excited to get into it.
Love it, love it, love it. So delighted to have you on the podcast. First question is always the same. Answer is always awesome. I'm sure yours will be no different. So, Tanya, what was your first job?
Oh, what a great question. So you're gonna take me back to my theater days. My first job was actually I was a stage manager in a theater, a nonprofit called the Beverly Arts Center in Chicago. I'm from Chicago. I currently live in LA, but born and raised in the South Side of Chicago. And there is a nonprofit called the Beverly Arts Center in the Beverly Morgan Park area, Chicago. And I was a stage manager for the teen and child productions. And it was probably the most fun I ever had in my life, like as far as like arts, because I always love arts and entertainment. But it was such a learning experience too, because I felt so important with my headset, during productions and stuff, and
Of course.
learning about Tech Week. Yeah, learning about Tech Week, and because literally, yeah, I was guiding, outside of the director doing it in the back of the house. I was on the stage, backstage, like direct, pushing everybody to stand in their places and all that. And also, there's a lot of babysitting involved, right? Because I was dealing with kids, but like seeing all those kids with their talent, the theater kids are a different bunch. Like they are probably the most
They are
animated.
special. They are special.
They aren't they special? I'm like, oh my God, like just the talent and the imagination that they have and just, corralling everybody. It helped me learn how to, manage people, manage, in general, right? So it was so much fun. And then learning all the songs too. I still listen to all the songs of all our productions we did because we did a lot of musicals. So much fun.
Awesome. So, okay, we do all that, and isn't it amazing? Isn't it awesome?
Yeah.
So, what happens post that? So, what was the career journey to get us to be having this conversation today?
Yeah, yeah, this is interesting journey. So like I did that and because as you probably know as a nonprofit, budgets are very limited. So I was living in with my mom at the time because I started this job, through an internship and then I ended up getting a job, a part-time job there. But it was like, hey, I want to leave my mama's house, right? I want to get my own place. So I decided to take a full-time job through my sister, actually, recommendation is at a law firm. And it's not what I wanted to do at all. It's just because I just wanted to get stable housing, and get my on my feet. And so I basically did admin at a major global law firm in Chicago, downtown Chicago. And we basically did new business intake, right? So we literally like cleared conflicts of interest for new businesses coming in. So I dealt with a lot of lawyers, a lot of partners. And from a writer standpoint, that job wasn't, obviously what I wanted to do, but it's writers always find stories and everything, right? I'm a sponge for stories. So I'm like, okay, I did this for a reason because I do plan to make a story about that time. But I was there. It was a safe and comfy job, right? Like I was making pretty decent money, especially more money than I had at that time. And I kind of got comfortable. And I was like, this ain't what I want to do. Like I was there for like almost 8 years, and I was like, nah, this ain't what I want to do. And I went through a bout of depression even because it was like I wasn't fulfilling myself in my creative aspects or whatever. I was doing things on the side, but I wasn't like, pushing for it the way I really wanted to. So I decided to just take buy a one-way trip to LA. I took a leap of faith because my
Wow.
one of my best friends, she sent me a sale from Virgin Airlines. Shout out to Virgin Airlines. Doesn't exist anymore domestically. I think Alaska bought them up, but that was my favorite airlines coming to LA. And I visited here like in 2013. I was like, oh yeah, I want to live here. And yeah, she sent me a sale from Virgin Airlines, and I bought it right then and there. It was like a random Tuesday, but not really random, right? It was meant to be. But yeah, so I bought it then, and I didn't have a job or anything, but things lined up once I did move to LA. And when I got to LA, again, I got on my feet. I worked at another law firm, and I was like, this wasn't what I moved here for because I was there for about a year. I took another leap of faith once I got my first major byline. So this was the first time I was able to write for pay, right? I got my first major byline in Ebony magazine, which is pretty major.
Yeah, awesome to
Yeah.
start kick this all off.
Yeah, exactly. That really did kick it all off. I wrote about Viola Davis actually, which is pretty cool. I wrote an op-ed for them for their digital site. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try to do this full time. So I quit that job and decided to freelance full time. And that was probably, oh my God, Laura, the most trying time for me financially, being a full-time freelancer,
Oh boy.
right? Oh my God, like chasing invoices, all that. But I learned so much, right? And like it was so challenging to the point where I came from an excellent credit score to a poor credit score. Like that's how bad it was. I'm still recovering from to this day from that because it's it's much harder
It,
to build it back
it's
up
hard. It's
than it
listen,
is. Yeah.
girl, I don't.
Oh,
Mm.
it was a mess, but I don't regret it because all those clips ended up leading to a full time job. So I got my first full time job as a writer, as an entertainment writer at The Root. And that was probably like my best, introduction and pathway to entertainment, the entertainment field in and of itself. Because I was able to do really cool things like, cover red carpets, go to film festivals, meet a lot of celebrities, be in rooms that I never would have imagined, just dreaming about, going to the Oscars or something, things like that, all these cool things that I got to do and just, beef up my belt was like so cool. When I worked with Blavity and Shadow and Act, I did some part-time work with them. Girl, I got to interview Oprah. Like I'm like, this is somebody I watched this, especially from Chicago, right? She filmed in Chicago, her show. And I never got to go to her show live, but I was looking at her show all the time, at home. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she is so amazing. And, she's obviously the epitome of media and interviewing. And then I got to interview the interviewer of all interviewers at her house at that.
What?
At her
In
house.
Montecito?
Yes, in Montecito. Yep. She
Uh,
was promoting her Wisdom of Sundays book, and she decided to bring a lot of black media specifically to interview her in a round table. And then she also had like an after party. It was kind of like that after like that Legends Ball that she did, like that was like went viral. It was kind of like
yes.
that. She brought all her friends, and it was a big concert. TD Jakes was there. It was like John Legend, like all these people were like performing and stuff. And then we
Oh,
had dinner and everything. Girl, I was in line with Tina Knowles. Like we was both in line getting chicken. Like it was like, what is my life?
such a black thing. We're in line getting chicken. Um,
Right? But yeah, so those experiences, like, it's priceless, right? And I just can't, I can't like say enough like how much of that was a pivotal moment for me in my career. And then, obviously, as you're probably seeing, the trajectory of digital media and how that's going, digital journalism, all the layoffs and all those things is happening. What I did because I knew that, the trajectory of digital media wasn't going the way that I wanted, especially when it comes to money and getting paid and what you're worth, because there's so many talented journalists who are not getting what they're worth and based on the amount of work they had to do. So I decided to leave the route, to pursue other opportunities. And I went into the tech space, which is funny, but it was for a script writer position. I ended up being a script writer for Tonal. So I was able to be on set, and which is like my happy place. I love being on set because I like, I do my own films. I launched a web series, like, so I love filming my own stuff. So I was a script writer on in that space, and then I was laid off from that. And then I went to what I'm doing now, especially for freelance stuff, is in the marketing space because that's what a lot of journalists actually pivoted to that space once we realized how unstable digital journalism was. We pivoted to the marketing space, and I'm a copywriter now for a bunch of clients, very big clients including Google, YouTube, Lionsgate, Paramount Plus, NBC Universal. I've done like a lot of stuff through agencies. Right now I'm writing for Honey Child Entertainment, which is Felicia Pride's media company, media and production company. I'm also doing some social influencer and brand influencer work for a startup called Ranked, which is a social marketplace for creators and content creators. So I'm in that space, that creative space all the time. But now I'm kind of like, a Jack or Jill of all trades. But at the core of everything, I'm a storyteller. So whatever I'm always looking for, I'm trying to connect and engage with audiences and community.
wow.
Yeah.
I'm like,
There's a lot, right? Yeah.
oh, it's very
I'm sure.
short and very like, not even not meandering at all, just a straight line. You were here on
I
this.
love it. Yeah, I was trying to try my best because I'm like, yeah, there's a lot that goes like in that, but like I was trying to like put it all together, right? Because even though it was like a lot of pivots and a lot of twists and turns, again, that's the core of who I am as a storyteller. So anything I'm trying to do, whether it's for a client, I'm writing copy for a client, advertising, marketing, or writing a script or writing an article, all these things. I'm always pulled towards that, whether it's any industry or what have you. But and so that's what I'm doing now. I'm like on a contract basis, and I'm freelancing again. I'm here. I am again because of the unstableness of this economy. As you probably know, this job market
It's
is wild.
wild time to be in any sort of creative
Oh
field
my gosh.
in our current state of mind is I guess the way to
Yeah.
um,
Yes.
but that's incredible. Okay, so I have to ask, what did you ask Oprah?
Oh, what did I ask Oprah? You know what? I asked her what was her aha moment because she always asks that like
Mm,
to other people. So I asked that to her because, this book that she was doing is really was amalgamation of like all these people that she knew, all these very geniuses and brilliant minds that she knew, pretty much a book of quotes, like probably like an anthology, I guess, of quotes and things with mantras and, wisdom that you can turn to, affirmations, all these things you can turn to. And I remember she reflected on that and, how this came to be. But one thing that stood out to me is that she did say part of, the work that she did and, seeing the fruit of her labor, right? And like walking around her home, she literally cultivated her home in a way that brings peace all the time because she literally called her home the promised land. Like we literally got a wristband in her house. It said promised land on it. Like it worked like a studio.
wow.
Like you go to a studio, right? You have a wristband, you have golf carts like going around. That's how big her house is. So like to even get around, you have to have golf carts and stuff. But anyway, going back to like what her like centering herself, she has like lots of like 8 acres of land, obviously, right? But that's not just for to have the land, but because she likes to walk and center herself and stay in the present moment. Because there's so many things going on, I'm sure, in her career, in her life, her personal life, and professional life. But she likes to go around and walk. And what she did was she decided to have a certain number of trees. And it was like multi hundreds of trees because she said I had a tree counter. Like I wanted this number of trees because she just loves trees so much because obviously the
Wow.
benefits of trees is we know what it is, the oxygen and taking in the carbon dioxide and just breathing in this oxygen that these trees provide for us and just centering herself. So she really cultivated her home to be this safe space for her, because she lives this wild life in her professional world. Even when she like retires, right? It always kind of like me when I say storytelling pulls me. You
Hmm.
can tell that every time she retires or she pulls back from something, she ends up making another announcement like, "Oh, I got a podcast now," because she's a storyteller too. It's never gonna leave her like that desire to interview people and to tell people stories, to be that that source of stories is never gonna leave her. So that's why she's still doing it to this day.
Wow, that
Yeah.
sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was very nice. And just to be with like, it was just really like it was all Black women, just in a round table. And I met some people that I still talk to this day, beautiful women that I talked to. And just like, before we went to their party, we went to her guest house, and we were like, oh my God, like we're in her guest house and this is Oprah's tissue. This is Oprah, like what, it was just so surreal. Because again, like I'm watching this woman as a child, like every day, like oh my God, this Black woman has
So,
her own show.
and now you're like, oh yeah, these are tissues that Oprah uses. Yep,
Yeah, exactly.
as one does.
Right, as one does, right? And then just like hanging around, because again, like that happening so early in my career too. It wasn't like when I had already had a roster of celebrities and I'm like, kind of jaded to it. Like, okay, these are just celebrities. This
Mm.
was like very early in my career. So to start with that was
Yeah,
surreal.
like if you're gonna start from
Yeah. Start
um,
from that, right? Yeah. It's like now I can handle anything after that, right? Because
yeah,
I'm
I was
like,
gonna
this is the
say,
woman,
once you
right?
I've interviewed Oprah, I don't really care what you said.
There's nothing else. Like, what is there else but be like Beyonce or something, right? That's like the other
That's probably the only one,
level.
yeah.
Right, exactly. And
Or
that hasn't
Michelle,
happened yet.
or Michelle
Yes.
Obama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michelle Obama, exactly.
Those
Something
are
like
like
that.
those are like the three where it's like, okay, rarefied
That's
gold.
the holy trifecta right
That's
there.
that's the whole
So
trick.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, well, that's amazing.
Yeah, right.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you've got all these amazing writing credits and programs and things that you've done. Tell me about a time where, whether professionally or personally, where you went through a challenge and you didn't think you'd make it through, and then you did.
Oh wow. I would definitely say the second time I was laid off, like back to back. So the first time I was laid off was again through Tonal, right? So that was a startup, and that happens with startup. That was my first experience with a startup, and then I learned very quickly how that happens, right? That's a very high chance for that happening. So that was the first time I had ever been laid off. So this is like what 2022, I would say, because I had survived layoffs before. Because again, I've worked for like major companies, major law firms. I had that other side of the pretty much like the survivor's remorse, right? Like when you're the people left after the layoff. I've had that experience because it was multiple, because I worked during the recession, the last recession that we had. So I worked during that, and it was like multiple layoffs. And I had, that having to work in a field that was like underworked, I mean, not underworked, we were overworked and understaffed, so having to deal with that. So when I was laid off for the first time, that was a lot. But at that point, I had like a pretty decent severance. And then also, literally, as my severance ran out, I ended up getting another job. So that was like such divine order.
Of
So
course.
that happened. And so I had, this agency. So that was my first agency experience. So that's when I got all those clients, the copywriting clients that I had rattled off. That was my first time working at a marketing agency. Then I worked there for about 6 months, and I was laid off from there as well. Now that one was harder for me because first of all, I didn't get as much severance.
Mhm.
And then I was going into this job market that we know now. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be okay. I have a bunch of referrals. My network is great, especially like again, all this network that I had from like the root. I got so many contacts, so many publicists, so many people who work in the entertainment industry. All these people were gathering together to help me, but it was only so much they can do. And so I was in a job market where the things that I thought would work before did not work anymore. Right? I had referrals on top of referrals. I wasn't even getting through to a recruiter
Right.
because like things were like just so different. Because of course I wasn't the only one who had referrals. It was this job market where the demand was far higher than the supply. So it was like it was just as many talented people as me who was going for the same job, right? Like it was like just everybody was just thrown into this job market that couldn't sustain, and it wasn't sustainable, and it's still not to this day. And so I was out of work for the longest that I had ever been. I to the point where I ran out of employment. Like it's only a limited time you can get employment for that first cycle. So I ran out of that, and we weren't able to get extensions because they had cut off the COVID extension. So that wasn't a thing. And so like I got to the point where I was literally relying on my mama to pay rent. I had to ask my mama to borrow money from my mama, and she's retired, so she has limited income. So I had to like suck that up and have to ask her for rent. And I remember I ended up again as a storyteller because I find a story everything, and I like to connect with people. That's the reason why I actually tell stories. Is I ended up writing an essay about that for Business Insider. And when I wrote that, I know that that was again divine order because another contact of mine, they saw that article and they decided to refer me for a contract job that got me back on my feet. So it was all aligned. But that was even harder than the freelancing, for full time part again that taught me how to navigate through that. But that was much, much harder because it was just longer. And again, I thought I had all this stuff lined up. I thought, I had the talent, I had all these things, but all of that, didn't really matter in this job market because it was like unprecedented.
Yeah, and it's just tough. I
It
mean,
is.
and no, again, there's no one can prepare you for it. The structures that
Mhm.
are in place are wildly inefficient,
Yes,
and we're in a gig economy, and we don't. There is nothing to help people with the gig economy, which makes
exactly.
it so much more challenging. And I'm sure you saw that thing that happened at the Grammys with Babyface.
Yep. Yep. Oh my God.
Just ah,
Yeah, and that particularly pissed me off because especially because again, as an entertainment reporter who has had that experience, I've done these red carpets and I know how it works. Like they didn't have to interrupt him like that. Like it's a standard thing that celebs are waiting in the wings to be interviewed, especially to something a mainstream outlet like that, like the Associated Press. They are willing to wait in the
like
in
she
the
wasn't gonna
wings.
go anywhere. One, she wasn't
Exactly.
gonna go
She
anywhere.
wasn't.
Your
She
AP
wasn't.
gossip, national
Exactly.
gossip blog. And two,
Thank you.
even if she was, she will come back because no, she
She
had
will come
connections.
back.
who
Exactly.
wrangle her. Like this is the,
Exactly.
but you because you didn't give two bits to heaven about the legendary Babyface
Babyface at
and
the
not didn't know who
Grammys.
he was. Because ultimately you didn't know who he was.
Exactly. You're at music's biggest night and you disrespected the biggest producer of your lifetime. What are
Like
you talking about?
it's longer than you've been alive.
Exactly.
Oh, and
Like,
he's not
come
black
on.
famous. He is crossed the world famous.
Exactly. So that's why I was like, oh my God, how you're just like throwing anybody in front of these red carpets who don't have training, who don't know their craft, at again, this very, very elite established, award ceremony. And these people don't even know, who this legend is. If it wasn't for him, there would be no chaperone. Like, come on. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, I saw that again. I have so many friends who are writers and cover entertainment, and you're just like, this is what constitutes. Whose daughter is she?
Yes, absolutely. And then, as a black entertainment writer, a lot of my peers said the same thing. And we've been screaming this from the rooftops is that we're the ones who are like all the way at the end of the carpet all the time. They always put us over there. And then there's no time to talk to the talent because then it's time for the show to start, especially if it's a live show. They got to go ahead and sit down at a certain time. And so by the time they're there, their publicists are pushing them away like, oh no, they got to sit down. They don't have time to do it. And we don't have the access to them, but we're the ones who actually appreciate these people, right? These icons, these legends. We know their history
We know the
because
history.
they're
We
us.
know everybody. We know everybody.
Exactly.
Your Morgan Whalen in country to your
Exactly. Because we have to,
and
right?
you have to, but you guys don't have.
Because exactly. Like we have to do thrice as much, right? Not even just twice. Do thrice as much, as you to even get on the same level playing field as you. So it was just really it just really incensed me because I'm like, oh my God, the disrespect. And you could tell Babyface too, like because the way that he was the one who actually graciously ended the interview. He was like, oh yeah, go do that. Like because he don't time for that. Like because he shouldn't be disrespected in that because he is Babyface.
Yeah, it's such a wild time. It's just like,
Ugh.
people who know what they're doing. Could you hire them, please?
Like all these journalists that are looking for work and stuff that could have been much more capable of conducting an interview, but they're being left and left aside. I'm like, okay,
It's pretty challenging, and
yeah,
what we can do is like get folks out there and have folks here. Y'all are fantastic, so that the right people will come knocking on your doors.
absolutely, absolutely,
So obviously the job market's crazy, and
yeah.
you're making it happen. So what do you do for your self-care?
So for self-care, what I do, which is again, I gotta shout out to my mama for even establishing this with me, is that, living in the here and now, right? So I always meditate before I get up in the morning, well, I do look at my phone to look at the app, but I use the Insight Timer app to meditate for 10 minutes every morning. But before I go and do anything else, interact with anybody, answer a text, any of that stuff, I go into that app and I meditate for 10 minutes with a mantra, right? Whether it's something that I want to happen that day, I want to manifest something for that day. But I take that time to myself, right? Because especially in the world that I'm in, the entertainment world alone, but not just that, but social media, it's always going, right? It's like always something happening. And you can get lost in that, especially these days. The doom scrolling is real. Every time you look up at
No,
something going on.
put the phone down.
Right. Right. Put it down. Right. So I take that moment to just live in the present moment because that's the only thing that I can control. Right. I can't control the past. I can't control the future. But this what I'm feeling in the here and now, is what I can do to start my day. And then I can make that my intention for the day. It definitely helps, especially again during stressful times for sure.
Oh, that's amazing. So
Yeah.
and so necessary. Like get that meditation in. It's
Yes.
I think that there should be like a Black girl meditates like
It
national.
should. It
I
should. Oh my gosh.
think we all
And
have
then
a collective woosah.
oh, we do. And then it doesn't. And what I always tell people, it doesn't have to be this like formal thing, right? Like you got to get in a certain space to do it. Meditation could even be taking a walk, just like I was saying what Oprah does. She takes a walk with her, around her trees and around her house. That's her meditation, right? It's literally just like grounding yourself for a minute, stepping away from all the other stuff, all the rigmarole that's going around in the world. That could be a meditation, right? Like, and that's able to reset ourselves. and ground ourselves. We definitely need that because otherwise we will spiral.
Yeah, 110% spiral.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So talk to me about what advice you give to your 18-year-old self.
Ooh, 18-year-old Tonja. Oh my gosh. Yeah, 18-year-old Tonja. I would tell her to go with the flow and that things that you think will happen in one way will not happen in that way, and that's okay. Because definitely 18-year-old Tanja thought getting to LA, getting to the entertainment business was this specific way to get there, but it's not. There's many, many journeys to success, quote unquote, whatever that may mean for you. But for me, I think success is obviously not just the money aspect, it's not just the career title aspect. It's just the joy and the happiness and me being happy with myself, enjoying that journey because that journey is happening for a reason, right? So I would tell her that, like, don't worry about the how, just worry about just think about getting there, right, and enjoying the process as you go along.
Yeah, just enjoy the ride.
Yeah, enjoy the ride, right? Because it's like I thought, like, I used to, because especially because as a writer, specifically my dream was being a screenwriter and writing films, writing TV and all those things, and I used to study it hard. I would read all the books, I would do all these things. Okay, these are the steps of how to get to this, and that's not necessarily the case. There's no guidebook, for it, especially now.
No,
Now that the advent of social media and all that,
and
there are
chat.
so many chat BDT. Oh my gosh, all of that. Oh my god, that could be a whole nother podcast for that. But like, just all of those things. There are so many avenues to it that it's a beauty. It's a blessing and a curse, I would say. There's so many avenues to it. But yeah, it's just letting that happen, I think, would be the best advice.
Yeah, just let it happen. Let it flow. You'll see where it
Let
goes.
it flow. Yeah,
It won't be more than that. Just but you gotta let it flow and see where it takes you.
that's
Um,
the beauty of life.
that's what it is. What it is.
Yeah, it is what it is.
So do you have a give and or ask of the audience?
Oh, let's see. What I definitely want to give to the audience, which also be kind of an ask, is to, especially these days, is to lean into your community, whether that's your network of family, friends, chosen family, your loved ones, all of that. I think community is so important right now because a lot of things right now are forcing us to divide, which is the whole strategy of divide and conquer, which we all know about. But I
Mhm.
think your community is what will keep us together and stronger. That's where our strength lies. And so leaning into that and being more giving, being more kind is what I hope that we all get out of this, because obviously there are a lot of valid reasons to be angry, right? Like there are valid to be angry and to rant and to, push all that negative energy out into the void, right? That's also healthy. But turning against each other, I don't want that to happen, right? So I do want us all to be in community because I think that's we got. I'll just say it like that.
Honestly, that is the most important message. Like we all we got. So please
Yeah.
be good to people. Like
Yes, exactly. I think that kindness is just, this is people, right? Because of humanity. That's what makes us human, right? Is that, otherwise that's why we call it inhumane. So I think, leaning into that, because I think we are in a time of resetting in a way that it's not going to be pretty, right? Like it could look like burning, right? A resetting could look like burning what currently exists, figuratively and literally. Oh my gosh, from Los Angeles. Oh my goodness. But I think that's what we're getting into, this new chapter and this transition. So I think we do need to lean on each other for that because we can't really rely on the old systems, and how those are going. That needs to be regutted for sure. A gut rehab of all that.
so incredibly true. Um,
Yes.
okay, last question for you. What's one thing that brings you joy?
Oh my gosh, I immediately knew as soon as you said it. It's Zumba, girl, Zumba. I
Oh,
love
wow.
Zumba.
Okay, reference.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it's because of the core of what I love about it. It's because I love to dance.
Okay.
So like that's what I love to do. That's the way that I get my exercise, my cardio. That's the way I love to get my exercise and cardio, I'd say. Like I take walks, I'll hit a machine and all that stuff, but those seem like chores. Not the walks really, because I do love to take walks. But going into a machine and all that stuff or the treadmill and all that feels like a chore to me. But I love dancing. So it's like I go out and dance. I'm not a wallflower whatsoever. I go to an event in LA. I'm not one of those people standing on a wall. If they have a dance floor, I'm on it. If they're playing music, I am dancing. I'm not too cute to look like or whatever just to stand on the wall or whatever. I love to dance and sweat. I don't care. So Zumba has been such a therapy for me outside of like professional therapy. It's been such a self-care therapy for me. And then I love my instructor. He's amazing. Shout out to Gabrielle at LA Fitness Hollywood. He is amazing. He always has like this mantra at the end of the show. He's so inclusive of the class, any level that you're on. He may have like advanced choreography sometimes, but he's always welcome and open to expressing yourself the way you want to, right? He always starts every class with that. And just the class itself, the energy of it is great, and we're all just dancing and just like letting it all out, right? Exactly. Like anything that we brought into that morning, we're letting it out and releasing it. And so that's what I love about it. And we're just having fun and laughing and dancing and just corralling together with music, which I love.
That's amazing. I love it. So
Yeah.
how often do you do it?
So I do it at least twice a week. So I go on Wednesdays and then on Saturdays. But sometimes, like, if there's like an extra day that I could go, because I know he teaches in other gyms too, I'll try to go to those. But at least do it at least twice a week. And then I strength train other days. So I love to do weights too as well. But yeah, for cardio, Zumba is my jam. I love it.
Wow, I love it. I mean, that was so not what I was expecting.
Really? That's funny.
That's why I
I
love
love
doing
it.
the podcast, because
I
like
know. I'm
stories
glad I
like
could
are
provide
just
that.
amazing. Like,
Yes.
well, Dodger, you've been such a delight. Oh my gosh.
Oh, you too.
I mean, your story is so awesome, and
Thank you.
it continues to warm my heart to keep doing these, because like everyone's story is so impactful, and it's
I
for
agree.
like Black women are just amazing.
We
Uh,
are. Ain't
um,
nobody like us.
ain't nobody, and every story is such a wonderful act of revolution,
I
um,
agree.
because the things folks have to do and strive to be where they are is just, if you look up resiliency in a dictionary, you'll see a whole bunch of Black women having a glass of wine.
I know
Um,
that's right.
like, it is what it is. But like, so awesome to get you to share your story, but also want folks to connect with you. So we'll put all details in the show notes for folks to follow you on the socials and hopefully hire you
Yes.
and all manner of cool things and what you're
I know
working.
that's right. I am available.
Yes.
Your writing needs. Come to me. Come to your
I think
girl.
these clearly are right here, Tonja.
Yes.
But thank you so much for being part of 29 Days of Magic. It's like I said, it's been an absolute delight.
Yes. Thank you so much for having this too. It's so beautiful. And thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. And that is our show.